My son is having a hard time at school. I get calls from his teacher constantly about his behavior. I've done all I can think to help him, but nothing has worked.
Okay, something that I need you to understand about people in general, but especially children, is that they set you up to feel how they feel. So I want you to stop as a parent right now at this minute, and I want you to ask yourself, how is this child making me feel? Yes, I'm giving you some time. Chances are this child is making you feel completely out of control. Chances are this child is making you feel like you have low self-esteem. This is exactly how this child feels. And if you want to change the behavior, you've got to change the feeling that underlies that behavior. So that means if you have a child that feels out of control, how are some ways that you could give that child back control that worked for you? And one of the best practices, it has depend on how young the child is. You can kind of extend it when they're older, but one of the best practices for creating control in a child, or a sense of personal control, is to give them choices. Tons of choices every day. When I'm working with children who are young, one of my favorite things to do with them is have them make choices that are retarded to an adult. Things like, do you want this fork or this fork? They're the exact same fork, right? Let's say you got 11 forks in your cabinet. They're the same looking fork. Doesn't matter. This fork or this fork, and the kid being able to choose makes it so the kid feels a sense of personal empowerment. They don't feel like they're in as much of a prison. Creating schedules for a child that is predictable, having a little calendar for them where they can see what happens on a given day, tends to add to that sensation of control. Because chances are the behaviors this child is exhibiting is an attempt to try to create that. But of course, what do we know about coping mechanisms? Oftentimes when we try to cope in certain ways, it becomes a detriment to our external reality. We don't always cope in ways that make life easy for other people or easy for us long term, because we just don't have the tools. So give the child different tools to get at the emotional experience that they're actually lacking and needing. So, and another issue, of course, here, if this child is making you feel low self-esteem, that child feels low self-esteem. What we got to guard against, and I don't care whether you have to pull this child out of the school they're in and put them into a different school to do it, is that this child is now running the very real risk of becoming the problem child. Now, if what they're feeling to begin with is a decrease in self-esteem, I don't feel like I have enough of it, do you think it's a very smart idea to have them in a location where people are constantly focusing at them as if they are the problem? No, it has to change. And it takes a great deal of personal integrity and also real consciousness for teachers with these difficult type children to not be projecting towards the child that the child is messed up. But they have to be in an environment like that, especially if they've got ADHD or likewise behaviors that tend to be an issue in our standardized school system. So I really need you to be thinking about what's the best for this child. Growing up in an atmosphere where everyone's looking at them like they're doing something wrong is not going to benefit. That's going to be internalized, and they're going to act in accordance with that identity that they assume. But your best bet right now is to figure out how this kid is making you feel, realize that's how he feels, and find different strategies for how to create improvement upon that state of feeling. And I have an entire community called the Teal Tribe Parenting Community. One of the best things to do, and one of the reasons that I even set up that community, is because it's really important for us as parents to be able to talk about these types of issues. So if I were you, once you figure out how this kid's making you feel, I would say, okay, that's how my kid feels. So I'd post in there, my child is feeling, XYZ. Do you have any suggestions for how I could create the opposite experience for this child? And have a lot of different parents brainstorm on ways that you could maybe have that happen. So that's my suggestion.